Simplicity at its finest. One of the simplest circle jigs you're going to find. I'm going to show you how to make it next. I'm Rick, and this shut the heck up, you stinking roosters. Nail that for your sanity! This is the shack. Hey everybody, welcome. New to the channel, first time stopping by. Thank you so much for taking some of that valuable time out to view. I truly appreciate that. In this video, I'm going to go over real quickly how I just threw together something very fast, very simple to make circles. I'm in the process of doing a lot of circles. I am making clocks. So if you have a project requiring a circle, you may consider this because this is very easy, very simple. And I get repeatable results every single time. And I go from 6-inch all the way up to 24-inch diameter. So let's get to it. Now you need to determine what best fits your bandsaw situation. In my case, this is 18 inches by 16 inches. Now as you see, I got overhang here still from this bar underneath. I could have actually went out 3 more inches. If I brought that out to the end of that, I would have maybe 1.5 inches, 2 inches on this side. So if I would have made this 21 inches long, that would have been here to the end. That would have been plenty. That may change if I go and do 20, 22, 24-inch diameter circles. And I may find a little wobbling or something, maybe. If that's the case, then I will redo this jig and go out 3 more inches. The only reason I have this on this side because I wanted enough area on here for the cutoffs just kind of rest without falling off. It's just my choice. When you figure out the dimension that best fits your situation, just set it up on your bandsaw here. I just put a mark here where I wanted the blade to cut through, and I kind of eyeballed it and put a mark here where the slot for the miter goes. Depending on your bandsaw, measurements and dimensions can differ. Just do it to best fit your individual situation. Now the reference marks we made for where the blade should cut and about the center of the miter slot is, we're going to transfer those to the back. Now once you transfer the marks to the back, get you a straight edge, and for just your reference, just draw a line, and then where the line is for the center of the miter, your miter should be at least 3/4 of an inch, give or take a little, depending on your brand. So on the mark came over, I went 3/8 on either side of that. Scribe me a line on both sides, just so I know where I'm going to put the runner. So I kind of put the runner on here where I wanted it in my case, and this is still long. I haven't cut the front down yet, but I kind of like a little bit on the back here so I can just grab on. It's like a handle. Line that up, put a little mark there and here just so I know the area I'm going to glue. Put the glue on it, set it back down on here, push down, kind of move it around a little bit, and then kind of line it up within the marks, straight edge on there, and just get it lined up. I put weights on here to hold it there for a while. Once I got it lined up, I didn't want it to move. I gave it about a half an hour to start setting up. Take the weights off and then drive you some 3/4 inch brads through, just a few to hold it so it won't move anymore. Then you can either clamp it or just let it dry overnight because it's pretty secure. You just want that glue to adhere. Now before we go to the bandsaw and cut our slot, I want to know where I am actually going to cut down to. What is my depth? What am I going to do here? This was 6, 8, 10, 12, and 14-inch circles. But I had it progressively as I went down because the way my thinking was, I'll use a smaller piece. If I wanted the small one, I didn't have to go down so far. I could just push in. I just push in a little bit and start my cut. And as I pushed in further and go down, that was my thinking. I would progress further. After using it, I thought, that's just too much because now I'm going to need multiple stops to make sure I get the same place every single time. That's not going to work. A lot of the other guys, some of them have a horizontal setting here where they just set them all along here, and they have these different settings where they can do all kinds of stuff. I don't need every 32nd of an inch increments down here. Basically, all I want is every inch. So that way I'm going from 10 inch, 12 inch, 14, 16. And I could have even went to a ½ inch and done every inch, but I didn't need that much. These are basically for clocks. So I wanted to keep this very, very simple. So I started thinking about it, and I thought, you know what, the best thing would be to literally center this. This is 16 inches long, so 8 inches down. My woodpecker tee, I can actually put my lead right in dead center, exactly at 8 inches. So I put it in there and scribed me a line. So now that we have our line scribed across, we can take this to the bandsaw, set it in the miter slot, and do our cut to the line. I don't know if it makes a difference. I did it just because in my mind, I think giving a little extra, I went a ½ inch more, maybe 3/4 past that line, just went past the line a little bit, just to give it some breathing room, some flexibility. I don't know if it makes a difference or not, it's just what I did. So with that line cut, now I can take my square, and in my case, the measurement exactly to that line is 13 1/16. Now, I could just go over 1 inch, so my measurement would be 12 1/16. But to me, that's a little too close to that blade to try to spin something around. I think that's best left for something like a scroll saw. So I'm thinking I could go 2 inches for the smallest to be 4 inch, but I went ahead and went 6 because I don't know anything smaller than 6 inches I'm going to have need for right now, if anything in the future. But that's where I decided to start. So if my measurement is 13 1/16, 3 inches from that is 10 1/16. And again, because I have I think these are 16ths. These holes are every 16th. I find the 16th hole past the 10 mark, put in my pencil, and scribe my line. I did that every one of these all the way out to 24 inches. So there's two things you could do right now. You could either go and get your stop set or drill these out. Now if you want to drill these out now, that's fine because we already have our reference line here, our slot we've cut, so we know where that's at. I personally used a 1/4 inch dowel, solid oak dowel. I drilled these, I think, ½ inch to 5/8, I forget where I had it set at. I just went along and drilled each one of them out. Now before I did that, so I could keep it pretty straight, I used my little punch, and I would find the crosshairs, get it right on there, and then spare piece of wood, I'll use this, and it pops in and makes that nice little starting point. So when you drill, you have a reference to drill at. Popped every one of these, went to the drill press, and started drilling. Now, because it has that on there, it's not going to set straight, so you get wood underneath there thicker than your guide, and just drill them all out. Now we go back to the bandsaw, slide this up to where the blade's there, and we got a mark underneath where we want the stop to go. So now we'll slide our sled back to our reference point. Right there is my line, so I'm going to slide this till the line just hits the blade right there. Now I'm going to go underneath and we're going to scribe a line for our reference for the stop. I'm going to remove my sled so I can better show you what I'm talking about. Once I have the circle jig slid up to our mark, I'm going to reach underneath here just like this with my pencil. I'm going to scribe a line right along the table of my bandsaw. But I will stop here because I'm hitting the guide for the miter slot. But this whole length here, I'm going to scribe a line. That will give us a reference point, so it will stop at that same point every single time. That's where we get the repeatability. Now, if your bandsaw doesn't have a bar in front like this, then you can use 1 inch, 2 inch thick stop, whatever you want. But in my case, my guide for this miter slot barely passes over this bar. It just has enough clearance. So I chose just to use a piece of 1 by 1/8. Little piece of stock I had, it cleared this perfectly. As you see here, there's my line. So all I did was I had this flat stock. I cut it down to the length and I cut it 1/8 inch shorter. Put glue on here, set it down there, push down, lined it up along that line there. If your rail here is square to this, then you can get your square and line it up and then make sure it's square here. I just had these spring clamps. When I had it set there, I put 3 of these on, clamped it down, and just let it sit overnight, so this is nice and secure. That easy, that simple. Once that was dried, you're basically done. You got a circle jig ready, and this stop will give you the exact same stop every time right here. So no matter what diameter circle I'm going to cut, I'm going to stop it here and get the same results every single time. Super easy, simple, but accurate, repeatable results. Say that 5 times quick. I hope this has helped. If you have a need for whatever reason to make a bunch of circles, games, projects, whatever it may be, this is, I think, the simplest jig I've seen. Some guys have a whole bunch of thought into this. You just got to keep it basic and simple, and I get great results out of this every single time. Hope it helps. Thank you so much for watching. Be blessed. Take back check. Build it for your sanity. Simplicity at its best. See you in the next video. So once I have the circle jig